Okay, let's talk about Neil Gaiman. I guess I should preface this by saying that I've been a big fan of Neil Gaiman's works for a long time. I got into reading as a hobby in my late teens. I started with his Dark Materials, and from there I read various popular books until I discovered Neil Gaiman. What spoke to me about his works at that particular time in my life was partially the fact that he had such an enormous library of works that was kind of neatly divided in half into both prose and comics, and I loved both. I also respected his imagination, his world building, the way that he played on established mythologies while also creating his own. And what's really weird to think is the fact that because of the time in my life when I discovered and read so many of his books, and I do think I've read every single book and comic he's ever written, and because of the sheer number of things he's written and how passionately I read all of them, until the day I die, he will probably be the author that I've read the most works by. That's kind of wild to think. And now we have this situation. Several months ago, at the time of recording, allegations came to light about Neil Gaiman's sexual misconduct, and I'm going to read from a Guardian article here. In July, an investigation by Tortoise Media reported allegations by two women of sexual misconduct against Gaiman, including sexual abuse and coercive behaviour. Gaiman has strongly denied any unlawful conduct. One woman, whose first name is Scarlett, alleged that Gaiman performed sexual acts on her without her consent when she was working as a nanny for the author's family in New Zealand. Gaiman said they only engaged in consensual acts. A second woman, identified only by the initial K, alleged that Gaiman penetrated her without consent. Gaiman denied any unlawful behaviour. Further allegations have been made since Tortoise's original report, including by Caroline Wallner, who alleged that Gaiman pressured her to have sex with him in return for letting her live at his property in upstate New York, and made her sign a non-disclosure agreement in return for a $275,000 payment. Gaiman has said the relationship had been entirely consensual. In recent weeks, news media has skewed its focus to the entertainment side of things. Neil Gaiman has written a lot of stuff, and a lot of it gets adapted into film and TV, as well as the stage. And so we've seen lots of reports regarding what will happen to those properties. We now know what is going to happen with Good Omens Season 3, for example. Good Omens Season 3 will now be a feature film, a single feature-length episode to cap everything off, and Neil Gaiman will not be involved in the project. The world is holding its breath. We're all waiting to see what happens because, again, at the time of making this video, these are allegations. The legal system has to take its course. I'm not sure which legal system, given the fact that some of these allegations have come from New Zealand, others from New York, so I'm not entirely sure how that works. But I'm making this video just for a bunch of tiny little reasons. One is to express my disappointment as a fan of Neil Gaiman, and I know I'm one of millions who've done exactly the same. I also thought I would make it for anyone who didn't know. I'm sure I will get comments from people saying they hadn't heard about this. When it comes to situations like this, where a public figure has been accused of something awful, you do just kind of hold your breath. I am of the opinion, as are so many people, that when it comes to a rich and famous man flaunting his power and the power imbalance between him and a woman, you believe the woman. Commonly, we like to throw around phrases like innocent until proven guilty, but that phrase kind of flies in the face of the fact that victims so often face backlash, especially from supporters of the person accused of misconduct. And these victims risk so much. They risk their reputations, they risk their safety to come forward and speak up against someone who is rich and famous. And money and fame are two of the most powerful things that exist in our world. I can't imagine how much courage it takes for someone to come forward and bring these accusations against someone with as much fame and as much of a following as Neil Gaiman. At this moment, we have no idea if any of what he's been accused of is true. He has been faced with multiple accusations and he has denied them at present. Where we go from here, I don't know. But we each have a choice regarding ourselves and our own personal relationships to Neil Gaiman at this moment. I occasionally receive comments from people asking me where I stand when it comes to supporting authors, whether they be dead or alive at this point, who did horrible things or are doing horrible things. And I don't know about you, but it sometimes feels like every person has their opinion on what we should do in situations like this. But at the same time, so many people who have strong opinions one way or another will express them as though they are a town crier telling everyone else how to behave. Take, for example, J.K. Rowling. Before I came out as a trans person, I made the decision to never ever financially support J.K. Rowling ever again when all of her transphobia became very apparent and very evident. And then I came out and obviously nothing changed because I'd already made that decision as a former trans ally turned trans person. I mean, I've always been you get it. And this is something that I naturally feel very passionate about. I personally feel very, very uncomfortable around anybody who would spend a single penny on J.K. Rowling now. That is how I feel. That is how I choose to behave. So what do we do here with Neil Gaiman? That's your choice to make. For the last several months, I have been making videos without giving a thought to the fact that I have some Neil Gaiman books behind me on these shelves. It just didn't occur to me. So, for now, what do I do with these? I have a lot of them. I think I'm just going to throw them in a cupboard somewhere. I don't like looking at them. Obviously, I won't be spending a penny of my money on anything related to Neil Gaiman, and again, that is my choice. I will collect up all my Neil Gaiman books and comics, and I will put them somewhere out of sight. As more information comes to light, which I'm sure it will, as the legal proceedings go ahead, I will make a judgment as to whether or not I get rid of these books entirely. For now, I don't want to look at them. You can tell me if what I'm doing is good or bad, if it's enough or not, and that might sway my decision. But I guess what I really want to do here is just emphasize the fact that we each need to make our own decisions with regards to what we do in relation to the art created by people who are being accused of terrible things. In a cupboard behind you, there is a stack of Harry Potter books. Really, really old editions of Harry Potter books from the 90s and early 2000s. My partner was an enormous Harry Potter reader. I didn't grow up on Harry Potter. I watched the films, I read some of the books, I never really cared, so when all of her transphobic cult leader bullshit came out, it didn't really matter to me. I can't imagine how painful it must have been for trans people and trans allies who were really big Harry Potter fans. Actually, saying that I can because I'm describing my partner, who was an enormous Harry Potter fan. The books are hidden away, and Neil Gaiman's for now are going to sit right next to them. We each have to make our own decisions about how we behave in the face of something like this. All I can say is that I massively respect the women who have come forward. To have the courage to do something like that is incredible. I don't know what I would have done in their position. It's frightening to think about it. And because it's frightening to think about it, I can only respect their courage more. I try not to get too attached to famous people who can so easily let you down in this way, as so often happens. It's hard not to put people on pedestals, especially artists whose art you value, you form an emotional attachment to. It's really difficult. And what I'm trying to do here is just sever that connection. Put all of Neil Gaiman's works in a cupboard and forget about them, because he is not the be-all and end-all. J.K. Rowling is certainly not the be-all and end-all. Ironically, so much of Harry Potter is eerily familiar if you've read Neil Gaiman's books of magic, which came out before Harry Potter. If you look at the shelves behind me, there are so many incredible artists out there. There are more great books in the world by incredible writers, diverse writers of all types, than you can ever read in your entire lifetime. I will never read every great work of fiction by a queer writer, by writers from all different languages, cultural backgrounds, races, religions, etc. There's too much great diverse fiction out there, and that's what I often tell myself when things like this happen. Neil Gaiman was a hero of mine, but it doesn't really matter. I can just put his books away, get rid of them, do whatever I decide to do, and move on, because there is a wide world of incredible fiction out there for you to enjoy. I do my best to read as diversely as possible because life is short and there is so much great art in the world. I suggest you do the same, but again, it's your choice. Do whatever you like. And I have no way to neatly round off this video, so subscribe for books.